Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new Double Down seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which every card in our starting deck gets duplicated, and every time we play a unit, we play a random unit with the same provision cost from our deck. That means we can do tons of ambitious unit combos that are not possible in any other event. So let's go take a look at the deck. So today we'll be playing a Skellige Warriors deck that focuses on dealing a ton of damage with our warriors, and a few other high-value damaging units as well that may not be warriors, but are still very good plays. So in round 1, generally I think our preference is going to be to use Ulula, who is our only 8 provision unit, which means you play one of her, you're going to get the other one out as well, and basically whenever you deal damage with the warrior, she is going to make you deal even more damage with those warriors, and having 2 of her means way more damage. So if you combine that with, in particular, Herkja in the melee row, then she is our only 7 provision cost unit, which means you play one of her, you're guaranteed to get the other one of her as well. That combination alone means tons of damage every turn, so that is amazing. And from there, oftentimes, you can get away with just using Bronze Warriors. Brokvar Warrior with that setup, still great. Combined with Ulula, once there are already some damage units on the board, Brokvar Archer, also good for a big burst of damage against one specific target. And once there are several damage units on the board, also not a bad idea in round 1 to use Sove, and with him, when played in the melee row, you can summon out, in particular, Melusine, who has a lot of base power, and that base power actually goes up every turn, which means that's worth a lot of boosts on Sove. The question is then, how do you remove her? You can get a decent bit of damage on her, maybe even remove her altogether, because she will get damaged based on how many damage units there are on your opponent's side of the board when you activate Sove. So that's one potential way to do it, but that's usually just going to weaken but not destroy Melusine. Best way to do so is generally going to be to then follow up with Rupture, and this is our only 10 provision cost unit, which means play one of these to rupture one of the Melusines, then you can use the other one to rupture the other Melusine. So basically, you get double Sove to spawn in 2 Melusines on your opponent's side, remove them both, and that's going to give you a huge source of boosts on this Sove. So that's your primary point scorer, in addition to your damage dealers with Herkja and Ulula in round 1. That's generally my preference there. Might also break out a Covenant to Steel your defender to help protect some of those cards, Ulula in particular. And there is another 9 provision cost card, that being Sukrus, so that helps you potentially make it so your defender can't take any damage. So that's certainly an option for round 1 as well. That's generally what we're looking to do. Then in round 3, if you haven't played Ulula or Herkja, then of course, as we were saying, those are capable of dealing a ton of damage, so that is great. Probably going to want to get a defender down there if you haven't used one yet already. You'd ideally already have used Sove, so you get a little bit of thinning. You don't really want Melusine in your hand, and that's one way to make sure if you use Sove in round 1, you aren't going to accidentally draw into Melusine that way. But the key engine that you're saving for round 3 is Harald. Because we do have Devotion, that means he will fully transform into his final form, which allows you to play a Bronze Warrior from your graveyard, and assuming you played one in round 1 or round 2, those are potentially worth quite a bit. And every time you play a warrior, you'll also get a little bit of extra damage, and again, damage from warriors. If you still have Ulula for round 3, then that is a ton of synergies there. And so then you can just play more of your Bronze Warriors. We have some 5 provision cost cards with good damage as well. They actually, for the most part, are not warriors, but the Warmonger, since it is easy to get a lot of damage units on your opponent's side of the board, since there are so many units in this event, not that difficult to reach that Bloodthirst 5, and there should be a lot of units for you to hit with that. So that can be worth a whole lot of damage. And then, assuming that there's 1 or 2 weak units on one of your opponent's rows, then should be able to find a good target to hit with this infusion here to set up a bunch of Cataclysm with the Deranged Corsair as well. So your 5 provision cost cards, generally going to be your late round cards, especially because another one is the Bear Witcher Mentor. Also, not a warrior, but again, given how many damage cards there are likely to be on the board, this can be a very nice point slam for you once you get down to 3 or fewer cards in your hand. Another thing you can do toward the end of the round would be you can use Draig to boost up all of your warriors by 1. He is your only 6 provision cost unit, so should get your other one out from your deck when you play this guy. And, you know, if you have tall removal remaining with things like Champion's Charge or the Rupture here, then these are, again, the things that you're ideally reserving for that Melusine removal that you might have done in round 1, but if you haven't used it, then you can still use that in round 3 if that's still remaining. And that's generally what you're looking for. If your opponent happens to have a defender or just a lot of units in general, then Whale Harpooner can move some things around, make it easier for you to target the thing that you need to take out. But that's just about all there is to it. Tons and tons of damage across the board, and then that extra point slam from Sove in round 1 as well. So let's go see it in action. All right, so going up against Skellige here, and we'll go first. Okay, so let's see. We have our defender. Useful. This would either give us our second defender or Sukrus. We'd like to have more of a sure thing there, though. War of Clans, at least in this round, doesn't make a lot of sense for us. So I think we get rid of that. And Sove we could definitely make use of. I do like that. Let's get rid of the other War of Clans, though. Okay, and just looking for some bigger options here. That is not really one of them. Okay, so I'd like to wait a little bit before using Sove so we can damage some of their adjacent units. I'd like to also have some damage units on the board when we do so, but don't have much in the way of good starting options here outside of, I guess, Feral Bond. So, sure. Suppose we'll do that. Hit you. And, well, see, the thing is, I don't really want to destroy that unit. I would rather keep a damaged unit to help set up Melusine and Sove. And all of these would destroy it unless we go range row with you, which is actually what I'm leaning toward. Well, it's not going to matter. Well, I suppose we can't hit you anyway, because you have immunity, so should just go in with highest base power, which would have still meant, the warrior who hits herself, I suppose. Okay, Longship is not terribly surprising. Corsair, do we have one in hand? We did a minute ago. I guess that's the thing we mulliganed. Fortunately, the thing they destroyed was not the thing that they put the Death Wish on. So now we at least have much better options for the warrior, and we also can use Curse Scroll, which we'd probably like to use to get our Blood Eagle. So we don't have that at the moment, but yeah, really wanted to see something like Herkja and or Ulula probably would have been the best building blocks for this round outside of the Sove combo we're looking to pull off soon. In fact, now we should hold off a little bit on that. Yeah, so let's go Brokvar Warrior here. We should play in the other row, just to a certain extent at least, avoid loading up on the row where we may find ourselves taking damage from this Cataclysm if they create more of that. Alright, Oniro. So we know they're not Devotion at the very least. Scenario. Okay. Well. Generally, not the biggest fan of round 1 scenarios, because that means we could just pass. Or relatively soon, at least, and say, well, you just wasted your scenario. They might try to get this purified, though, so they can replay it in a later round. That's not out of the question. Can't really destroy this, because although it has Doomed, and it would not go into their graveyard in that case, the last chapter will bring it back if we have already destroyed it. So I think now, let's see, they have 2 damaged units. I mean, we could still hit you reasonably hard. In several different ways, in fact. It might be Sova Clock, or... No, I'll tell you what, this is where we're going to use Blood Eagle. I'm going to put you back, Blood Eagle you, and here is where we'll get out Herkja. And she is our only 7th provision cost unit, which means that we will always get out the other one. Fewer damage units on their side now, true, but we do destroy the Skellige Wolves, so we'll get that on our side now. Our melee row is getting a little bit crowded, which Sove does need to go melee row, so that is a little unfortunate in that way. Would still go defender if we really felt the need. Suppose they are going to load up on damage soon. And by soon, I mean now. Alright, so now that has been purified. So no more Doomed. We can destroy it, and they won't be able to bring it back for what it's worth, but we also could potentially destroy it with Champion's Charge later on once we get the Bloodthirst back up and running, which at the moment we do not have that. Could destroy all these if we really wanted to, or probably better yet, hit you and hit all these guys as well with the Warmonger. We'd like to start getting back to Bloodthirst at least a little bit. I mean, Warrior's not bad, I suppose. We hit you, yes, you're still damaged, so we can go 1, 2, and remove for 3. Maybe we go that route. Let's not commit anything too big just yet. And it's not a great card for us, though. Because, again, they've committed Scenario, which was a big commitment. So, if we can have them spend a lot more than we did in round 1 and still get the win, that'd be great. Or just keep things relatively short and simple here in round 1 and have them, well, yeah, just have a lot more stuff remaining for later rounds than they do. Alright, it's the Axe Wielder, which can destroy and therefore set up some Cataclysm, which may very well end up setting up more Cataclysm. But I was trying to play a little more in the range row, because as I was saying, we do have a Sove that needs to go melee row. So, I mean, at this point, this is overkill for them big time. But is it worth the Sove? Would end up putting Melusine here, hitting units that have armor, so it's not quite as much value in that way. But we could use a Champion's Charge to remove one of the Melusines, and you to remove... Actually, this could remove both of them. So, you know, I think we go for it. I think we have a decent setup still to make this happen. We have some, not a ton, but some damaged cards on the board, and of course we'll have one more. The second Sove. And we'll start hitting them, eventually, with Herkja. We could, of course, use the order ability there if we really need to. But we kind of like them using those orders, because the Melusines become easier to hit here. Easier to destroy. And we could reach Bloodthirst 5 fairly easily if they don't do some healing, by just setting them up with a few leader ability charges. That would at least... well, I mean, you are gonna get powered up a little bit. Let's see. Hitting their own units a little bit more. But now this could be where we go double Rupture on both of you, and you will be at, by the end of the turn, I forget if it counts it as a 9 or if it does first increase the base power and then get destroyed by the Rupture. But either way, would mean some big boosts for the Soves. So that's what I'm thinking. Otherwise, of course, Champion's Charge works as well. But I think we go this route. And at this point, melee row is probably better. So it's Rupture and a second Rupture. Which is not impossible for them to work around, but it is difficult. And this is sort of our insurance policy here. Okay, Axe Plunderer is not going to save those Melusines. They do get rid of one of the Herkjas, unfortunately. I suppose if this was going to be our last turn, then we might have wanted to use the Herkjas anyway, because there go the Melusines, which means here come the boosts on that Sove, making it ginormous. So I'm thinking we do, well, I mean, we do still have this Herkja order ability, as I was saying. We perhaps should have anticipated that we might have wanted to have used that last turn. Otherwise, I mean, you do have immunity, so I'm not sure Defender makes that much sense right now. We are not currently at the Bloodthirst here, so it's not amazing. It's still an option, but we could play the Warmonger. Champion's Charge, we need to use one leader ability charge, and we could use that to, what, maybe remove their big ship. Mentor, not a terrible point slam. I think we'll pass here, though. We will be dealing 1 damage every turn, theoretically, with Herkja, unless they can shut her down. So we opt not to use her order, because if we did, then we'd have to have played 1 more card on our previous turn. But basically betting that they cannot score 30-plus points in 1 turn here. We'll see. Okay, well, they're gonna return the Rupture Favor, but that's not that powerful against a 5 base power unit. And Crocky is a great card, but I'm not really sure this is the right time to be using him. Even after the Rupture, they still have not passed us, which means they're going to have to go at least 2 cards down. Which means we should have permanent card advantage even if they do win this round, and Longship is not what you want to be playing at the end of the round, so at this point it's looking like they're throwing good cards after bad. They did not expect us to be able to have this much pacing at the end of the round, and they do catch us, yes, but at what cost? Alright, so this is nice. We draw into Sukrus, which means we now know that we're going to get, or well, we're going to be able to get 2 Defenders and 2 Sukruses total. We'd like to have it be Covenant of Steel and Sukrus on the same turn. That way we can immediately protect our Defender, which may not be the case when we have them paired up like this. I'm expecting them to dry pass since they played 2 more cards than us in the previous round. It would be kind of silly for them to play further. So Whale Harpooner could be our throwaway here. Maybe try doing better than the Warmonger. Mentor might be better, but we'll see if we can do better still. Not so much. Okay, they do dry pass here. So we're just looking to play what is probably our weakest card, and that could be a Feral Bond. It could be a Harpooner. Harpooner is kind of nice, especially in a long round, which this will be slightly shorter than a maximum length round 3, because there should be a lot of units, and if they do... Did they play a Defender in round 1? Doesn't look like it. So yeah, if they break out a Defender, it could be nice to have this to move that into the other row and access whatever unit they were trying to protect. So I think we'll go Feral Bond. And with that, we just, I guess, go maybe Marauder? So he's 4 provisions, which means we're going to play a card from our deck when we do this. But it's going to be a weak card, which is probably the way we want to go. Don't want to be wasting any good stuff here. So we'll win round 2. Alright, and we draw into Herald. That's huge. That can certainly be our key card that we can build around here in round 3. Draw to our other Bear Witcher Mentor. Just want to make sure we have enough 5 provision cost units remaining in our deck here. I think we still have a lot. Yeah, we have a whole lot. Okay, so that's not a concern. I'm thinking we might dump these Champions Charges, because since they are not units, we can only play 1 copy of them. That's a good finisher as well. Okay. So, in this case, why don't we... And we have Blood Eagle. Okay, so what's Blood Eagle going to be for? It could be Ulula. Probably going to be Ulula. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so let's start Defender, I think. Then it's going to be Herald, Blood Eagle, Ulula, potentially other Sukrus / Defender combo. So again, this is either going to be second Defender that comes out or Sukrus when we do this. We'd like for it to be Sukrus so that we can immediately defend this Defender, but alas, no such luck. So, in that case, what I will probably do is on the next turn, put Sukrus next to both these. Okay, which should wall the damage from Eltibald. Unless they can immediately destroy one of these guys, which I doubt they can. Right, so it's a little bit slow, our start in this case. But we're playing it safe here by putting the Sukruses next to the Covenants of Steel. So now both rows are theoretically safe from damage. Okay, and it is their other scenario. Potentially possible still for them to hit us behind our Defender, because the Cataclysm, at least if they can pull that off, will be able to damage enemies regardless of who else is in that row. Okay, so we get to play some stuff from our graveyard. What is the preference here? Brokvar Warrior, maybe to hit the Eltibalds. I mean, they're just going to be able to load up on these Covenants of Steel, but again, those aren't really going to be able to hit anything. Maybe that's still the best play here. You, hit you, hit you. Then other Herald, same thing. You, and you. We could return the favor a little bit with some Cataclysm of our own. But next, we'd like to be Ulula, because that would have given us even more damage with all these Heralds, and that was why I was saying earlier, could make a case for potentially going Ulula first, or going Herald first. So Whale Harpooner, this is what I was saying before. There is something to be said for keeping one of those, so that you can get rid of some defenders, or at least move them to a place where they are not as troublesome. So that's in part why I kept a defender in each row. So now this Herald could be taken out, but we still have this one that is well protected. So that's useful. We unfortunately can't move our own units with Whale Harpooner, but I think this is still going to be Blood Eagle here, and we could go Death Blow on this Whale Harpooner is probably the way we'd like to do it. And do this to get Ulula, and she's our only 8 provision cost unit, which means when we do this, we should be able to get the other one guaranteed. Somewhat mixed feelings about whether it's best to put her behind the defender or put her next to Sukrus where she can't take damage. So there's no defender here. I think it's probably still best to put her behind the defender. I think that's probably still the best approach. Alright, then it's Oniro. And it's another Whale Harpooner. Okay, so they did a good job of... I mean, that is the right answer. Making it possible, at least, for them to go after our key cards here. So defender's down. Question here is, have we done enough already that they will not be able to stop us? Alright, so it's a little early for the Mentor. Might be time for the Corsair, who is notably not a warrior. So will not trigger Ulula or Harald or anything like that. For that reason, actually, we could potentially... Do we have 5 provision warriors? Not really. I think our 5s are all non-warriors. So for that reason, you could make a case for going Draig here, since we're not going to get any more... Well, actually, there is one other thing we can do that would give us additional stuffs, additional warriors. Let's actually do this now. Because what this allows us to do... Let's get a little more of that stuff happening, and then we go here and put the status on you. And technically we don't have a defender anymore. So we'll do that, and we'll do that. So, well, I mean, granted, it's a little overkill here, but it means we get a few extra turns of Cataclysm. Okay, who are they going for? Ulula. Or at least one of the Ululas. Do they have a second? Oh, they already... Didn't they already play one of these in the previous round? Croc is a little worrying. What is our lowest unit? I mean, it would take out a Brokvar Warrior. We're not really concerned about that. We could move... And also, they're obviously going to avoid this melee row. We could move one of you into the melee row, and that's where you would start taking damage from Cataclysm. Well, they realize at this point there's no way that they can catch us, and so they forfeit. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here. And they'll go first. Alright, so we have Sove. I do like that in round 1 as our big point-scoring card. We have Harald, which is great, but we'd like to save that for round 3, I think. Combination of Covenant of Steel and Sukrus, those are our only 9 provision cost cards, so playing one of them will give us the other. Champion's Charge could be a way to set up Harald, or rather, Sove. Blood Eagle. Okay, that can be our way to get the removal of the beast we get out with Sove. Let's get rid of little Havfrue. Because Melusine is the one we want to get with Sove. Okay, I was gonna mulligan you, but we have to get rid of Melusine now. Alright, Dandelion. Deck boosting? Archgriffin? Question mark? I was expecting Reavers with Mobilization, but now I'm not sure. Alright, I think we'd like to answer this Dandelion as quickly as possible. And so maybe we start with Brokvar Warrior, hit you, then you, and that will give us some damage units so that we can play Sove soon and at least have some damaged cards on the board so we get some quick damage on the beast that we summon. But I do think we should be able, through Blood Eagle, to just about guarantee that we can destroy whatever it is that we do end up summoning with you. But start with you. And we'll get another one out. And might just opt to destroy Dandelion here. I know it's going to prevent us from getting additional damage on Triss, but I think that might be worth doing. This Dandelion was a little bit threatening. Muted Generator. Okay, so it is deck boosting. Absolutely. Absolutely. Alright, and yes, that definitely does mean that getting rid of Dandelion is probably quite important. So, still perhaps a little bit early for Sove. We'd like to have a few more damaged cards on the board since we did get rid of Dandelion. So maybe we start off with or go next to the Feral Bond here. And let's see. So whenever we play here, remember we're going to play another unit of the same provision cost from our deck. So we'd rather have a 4 or 5 is basically the question here, and you would probably end up destroying Friss, which I suppose we're okay with. We'd kind of like to have you in the range row, because we do have Soves that need to go in the other row, and you are not going to have anything to damage, unfortunately, but that's what happens when we destroy all their units. Alright, it's Donamir. As long as they don't go melee row with him, that's fine. Because we are going to need to put Sove, melee row, which means Melusine, or Melusines, plural, melee row. And I think this might even be the time to do that now, because we have already delayed at least a little bit. So let's do this. Melusine should take you out, or at least has a decent chance of taking you out. Again, would like to see a few more damage units on the board, and perhaps even a few more of their units here for the Melusines to hit. I mean, this Skellige Wolves, unless they play something in between these two, will end up spawning on our side of the board. But we're going to go Blood Eagle into Rupture on both of the Melusines is our plan. That's our way that we intend to remove them, and that's why I was saying earlier that Donamir range row is good for us. As long as they don't have another one that they play in the melee row, we should still be able to take out these Melusines and get some big boosts on these two. That shouldn't matter much, even if they go Temerian Drummer here. Don't believe they'll be able to boost up this Melusine quickly enough for that to make a difference. We actually like that they did that. That means this Melusine's going to damage this drummer. It's going to get more base power, and in doing so, it is going to give a bigger boost to Sove. So now this is where we go. And Blood Eagle, we would like to have something to remove, though, and we don't because we can't target you. And, oh, well, we do with the Bloodthirst. No, we have enough Bloodthirst. Okay, so that's fine. Otherwise, I was going to say we can lead our ability and get the death blow that way. But instead, why don't we just hit one of these Temerian Drummers? And we're going to get you out for Rupture, and you are only 10 provision cost unit, which means if we play you, we are guaranteed to get the other. So that's Rupture number 1, and this will be Rupture number 2. This is Northern Realms, so they may have enough boost to overcome the damage from this Rupture, we'll see. If so, then we can use a Champion's Charge to remove one of them. Let's see, it's Roach. I mean, who knows what this is going to be. Mostly looks like damage, though. Or removing armor from themselves. And they're saying, well, if the Melusines are going down, might as well get the rain out of them. Fair play. But down they go. And that means big old Sove for us. Alright, so that leaves us with a 31-point lead here. It's a little bit early, I suppose you could make the case. So there's maybe something to be said for playing a little bit further here, although we do have a big lead. So it is kind of tempting to pass here, and in doing so, basically dare them. They would have to catch us on their next turn, otherwise they would have to go a card or more down in round 2/3. So I think we still pass here. I think we do still pass. They are going to get some boosts every turn from these drummers. They have a little bit of vitality as well. They can create another unit with Reaver Scouts, so they have some setup already. This is still a fairly big deficit. A little bit of rain that we're going to take some damage from as well, assuming they do play further. Yurax City Guard, though. That I'm not sure. Well, combined with Muta Generator. Okay. They're getting somewhere. They are getting somewhere. And this might be enough, to tell you the truth. That was actually extremely well played. Extremely well played. Yeah. All right, and so they have played 2 more cards than us, which means they probably won't try to push in this round, but I'm almost certain that they are a Archgriffin deck, and so they have a bunch of carryover, theoretically, in which case they may still be willing to invest in round 2, assuming they can get back that Archgriffin in round 3. We drew into the other Herald. That's no good, because he's our only 12 provision cost card, which means that was a dead card in our hand, and we already have 3 out of 4 of our 9 provision cost cards in our hand, so that's not good either. Really wanted to get rid of the little Havfrues, which we now have 2 of, but we have to keep them, because they're at least worth something, and they can be a throwaway card at the very least here. So, actually, not bad in this case. And could even opt to use another one here if we'd like, because we do have 1 more throwaway before we can still draw into 10 cards in round 3. This is what I was saying before about us perhaps ending round 1 a little bit earlier than we would have liked. If we could have pressured them into maybe going a card down, might have been a little more meaningful, the round 3 impact on that. But, I mean, they did fight back, so we'll both be on 10 cards apiece going into round 3. All right, and once again, we draw into Sukrus, which, as he is our other 9 provision cost card, we'd like to get rid of him, so we are already guaranteed to get him. Second Blood Eagle, though, that's very nice. That's very nice indeed. Okay, so we have now suddenly a ton of options here. Champion's Charge would be great if we had Last Say. We could use it to get rid of that huge Archgriffin, but I'm not sure that that's going to make that much of a difference here and now when we do not have Last Say anymore. And it's just 1 card, because it's not a unit. Okay, so I think we'll start off with our defenders. We'll play it a little bit slow initially. And I deliberately got rid of Sukrus, because that means since we have both defenders in hand, we are guaranteed when we play this to see a Sukrus, as he is our only other 9 provision cost card, which means we are very safe here. I mean, usually, assuming this is an Archgriffin deck, which maybe I'm wrong, but they tend not to have much control. Well, Renfree could mean anything in that case. Actually, that would be odd if they were Archgriffin with Renfree, because usually you use a bunch of specials to get the boosts for the carryover. But, I don't know. Draw a unit of your choice, though. That is potentially quite powerful. You see Renfree already has a boost. That's because they had a bunch of that carryover from all the deck boosting they did in round 1, primarily coming from that Meta Generator. And they immediately used their order ability. They went for long-term passive component to it. That makes sense. Okay, so we could go for second Covenant to Steel, which would give us our other Sukrus. We could do that in the range row and keep that row safe as well. That would be slow, but it'd be safe. Or we could get a little more aggressive, now that we have a defender set up here, and go for Herald on this turn, or go for Blood Eagle. We'd have to set it up a bit with leader ability, and use that to get probably first priority would be Ulula, and then followed soon thereafter by Herkja. All of these cards work well together. I think we'll go Herald. Other Herald. And I guess same thing here. So we can get even more damage every time we play a warrior once we get Ulula and Herkja down, and maybe that quick burst of damage has already scared them off. Yep, looks like it did, because by the looks of things, they rage quit. Alright, so going up against Scoia'tael here, and we'll go first. Alright, so we have both Herkjas in hand, and she is our only 7 provision cost unit in our deck, so by playing 1, we're guaranteed to get the other, so that means we definitely want to mulligan her out. Melusine is another card that we would like to tutor, or actually summon out, using Sove, and so we'd like to keep her in deck until we use Sove. So let's swap her out as well. Okay, Sukrus, I mean, is workable, of course. Do like Blood Eagle. I'm thinking we dump one of our 4 provision units here, maybe a 5. Let's get rid of Brokvar Archer, I suppose. Well, we'll get a 4 in return. Okay, so that being said, Herkja is really good, especially if we can combine her with Ulula, who we do not currently have. Only way we would be able to get her would be through a Blood Eagle, and we might be able to get a second Blood Eagle or just go directly into Ulula if we were to use Curse Scroll. So I think we'll perhaps, maybe we just lead off with Herkja, or we go Sukrus. The other 9 provision cost card we have in our deck is our Defender, Covenant of Steel. So, what, a 66.6 repeating percent chance that we get a Covenant of Steel here, which would be kind of nice. So we could try that. It's a bit of a risk. I mean, double Sukrus would be kind of unfortunate. Not the end of the world, but that is what we were looking for. So now it is much easier for us to go Herkja, double Herkja, in this row. Of course, with Guerilla tactics, they can move our Defender, they could move Herkja as well. So if they want to get really aggressive, they could disrupt us a bit here. They're going to go Poison. Okay, double Poison at that. Alright, so our Defender is going to go down. Do still have Sukrus, though, and he can still be a little bit helpful for us, so I think that's still certainly not the end of the world. And I think it's probably still Herkja first, and then we'll have some damaged units at the end of our turn, and that will hopefully help set up either the Death Blow or the Bloodthirst 3 for Blood Eagle, so we can get whatever card we want out from our deck, or whatever Warrior, which is what we need anyway. So, gonna put at least one of you next to Sukrus. Again, they could disrupt us a little bit here. They want to use Guerilla Tactics. Herkja is row-locked, but she does still use her automatic damage at the end of the turn, even if she does get moved into the range row. So, would like if she stayed melee row, but it's still workable, even if she does get moved. Okay, so we're near row. Oh. Into the Rune Rite combo? Yeah. Yes, indeed. But they don't use it yet. Okay, interesting. So unfortunately, Herkja did not end up hitting enough cards to set up the Bloodthirst, but we could get Death Blow with Blood Eagle, which would give us Ulula, which is definitely an interesting prospect. I think we definitely go for that here. So let's, excuse me, I would like to do that. So then we get, where'd she go? Let's put you, one of you in this row at least. Especially seeing as how it's movements. Yeah, sure. Put you here. That's going to make these Herkjas much stronger. Let's also use Curse Scroll, and we'll use this to get probably our other... there you are, Blood Eagle. And get rid of one of our many 4 provision cost units here. So now these Herkjas are going to go absolutely crazy when combined with Ulula. So that's the great part. Would have loved, of course, to have still had our Defender here, because they're going to try to shut some of this down. They will shut some of it down, one of the Ululas. Combination leader ability and a special from their hand, but still have one, and we still have both Herkjas, so still doing okay here. Would like to get Blood Eagle, and with it, get the Echoed copy in a later round, of course, which is always nice, and would kind of like to get Sove out in round 1, because that way we can thin out the Melusine, which otherwise is a card we don't really ever want to see in our hand. So if we go here, we get Bloodthirst 3, right? So that should work. So we use this to get Sove. He is our only, what is it, 11 provision cost unit? So we can go Melusine here. And let us hit, I mean, we can wait for this Melusine. Well, actually, we'll hit you. I'm relying on the Herkjas with their order ability to take out this Melusine, because it is kind of nice to increase her base power, because that means more boosts on the Soves. I'm surprised that... Oh, it needs to be melee row. That's why. Okay, that's my bad. Should have put both of them in the melee row, because then we could have had double Melusine. I was just trying to split them, so we didn't stack up too much in one row. So we have a lot in the melee row already. But yeah, the ideal thing would be that you would have the double Rupture or a Champion's Charge for removal. Let's see what they're going for here. This is with the double Desert Treasure now they get. Wild Boar of the Sea. Okay, but not amazing. And then that Unseen Elder, we know they don't have Devotion. They play no Nero. And these guys are not Scoia'tael units anyway. But yeah, usually if you had either since we don't have any of them, it's a little riskier, and especially since they're loading up on stuff in the melee row. Yeah, perhaps even better that we only used one Sove to get a Melusine out, otherwise we might have run into issues trying to get rid of that other one. So, I mean, we should probably go for it here, though. I mean, we have plenty of damage, in truth. So, either Brokvar Warrior or... Yeah, we'll go Brokvar Warrior. The Whale Harpooner would not be bad either. Actually, technically speaking, this is better. I think that's enough. Ooh. Weaken, but not destroy you. And then you have Harmony, so I'm gonna guess we'll get rid of you. Are gonna get the extra damage from the Ulula. So, I guess it was technically a little bit overkill. But there you go. That's the random damage from Herkja. Combined with Ulula was gonna be our way to boost up Sove, or, if necessary, the Herkja orders. But of course, the longer we wait to use this, the more value we get out of Herkja. We're going to use another Alzur's Thunder to get rid of the Ulula. The other thing is that Unseen Elder is going to end up hitting some Veiled units like Herkja every once in a while. So, here's the thing. We're up by a fair bit of points here. We are going to take a little bit of bleed damage. Not that much, though. We will still deal 2 damage every turn between these two Herkjas. So, we could pass a little bit early and dare them to try to catch us, which I think would be pretty difficult at this point for them to do in one card. So perhaps that is worth doing. Otherwise, I mean, Brokvar Warrior here, 1, 2, and 3 is certainly not a bad play. But perhaps we're getting a little bit clever, tempting fate a bit. But we'll give this a shot. So it gives us the chance to win on even here, which could make things very interesting in round 2 or round 3. Or if they try to catch us, it's going to be difficult. It's Force Protector. Double Force Protector, but they don't have any nature cards in their graveyard. Oh, no. So this is what I meant. We have still a very large lead. They have now played one more card than us in round 1, but they still haven't caught us. And I am very doubtful that they can, even if they continue to play cards here, as the deficit is still quite large. Yeah, and I think they've realized it too. They've gone AFK. They've functionally rage quit because they realized there is no way they can salvage this at this point. And so, we will take the win. So there's a look at the Skellige Warriors deck, the new Double Down seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.